We're live.
Oh, good, we're live.
Greetings. Welcome.
There's two people watching us, Blood Musician and Jay-Z.
Those are the two people that talk in the chat. There's probably more than that.
Yeah, just two.
Okay. Hello, Blood Musician and Jay-Z.
Welcome to this private chat with Paul and Christopher.
Right. If you have any questions you want to ask us, we were just talking about the industry.
Right.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Games that we're going to be putting out in the short term and the long term.
That's true.
But now we're going to stop talking about all those things and talk about the Sentinel Comics live show that we've been doing.
That would be good. So I have a confession. I was gone last Tuesday. I was not in the live stream. I was here for the GM thing, but not here for the stream because I had to fly to Seattle for this meeting with Amazon we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened last time.
Yeah.
Oh, the Walking Target says that there are 11 viewers. So the Walking Target is here as well.
And so it's Blood Musician, Jay-Z, and the Walking Target, who is 9 more people.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
The Walking Target is themselves 9 people.
It's the Ennead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Okay, so the so you missed last week.
Right.
So everything happened as I ordained.
Okay.
So they approach the tower,
Right.
and they go up in the tower. As they're like working their way through the tower, they find like all this magical stuff, and there's magical sigils doing magical things, and they're like, oh shoot. And so then after one of them like tries to go up some floors, and I think like Adam or somebody tries to go up some floors and fails.
Starblight. I was thinking about them.
Starblight. Yeah, fails to do so, and so then Violet Heart like goes up some floors, like walking up the wall like a creepy person, and like sees some sigils, and then Stellanova's like, I'm just going to teleport 10 feet up, 10 floors up, and so she like grabs everybody who's still on the ground, and they teleport up to the 10th floor.
Yeah.
Right. And then as they do that, like bad stuff attacks them, and they roll. There's a lot of really bad rolls. Which is just great for me, because it means that there's lots of major twists and minor twists.
Yeah.
And so they had to fight the Impossum, and the Impossum was super terrible. The Impossum ended up like stealing the entire, like spoilers, it stole the entire show. Like the Impossum, because Impossum has that ability that when it dies, it comes back.
Yeah.
So like they fight the Impossum, that they eventually over time kill the Impossum, and the Impossum is cool. It's got like 6 eyes on one side and no eyes on the other side, and it's like all this like weird creature, and then it has a tail that is unknowably long. The tail stretches off into the darkness, and you cannot know how long the tail is. It's some distance, it's some length. It's not like infinitely long. No. It stops at some point, but you don't know where. It's not. And like you can see the end of the tail, and you can see the start of the tail, but I just don't know how much space is in between there. And so then they kill it, great, fine, and then they end up later fighting the stuff at the top, and it shows up again. But we'll get there. So then they go up to, so then they're like, okay, well let's teleport up to the top. So they teleport up to the top, and they come out of the teleport in the middle of this beam of magical energy that's coming from the sigils, that's coming from the ground beneath them, blasting out of the top of the building, and they're like caught in the middle of this thing, and they're like, oh, we went too high up, and they're caught in all this magical energy, and it like strips away and destroys a bunch of the stuff around them, and they're feeling really bad about it, but Stellanova like doesn't overcome to stop the magical energy, so she shuts down the sigils, and as she does so, then Dynamo jumps up in the air and punches through the ceiling, the ground, and falls into the floor beneath them. And then they meet Stygian and Inductor and Tear, and they're doing magic stuff in their magic circle. And they're like, yes, we're magic. We're good at magic, and you people are weird. Go away. And so as they show up, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to deal with these guys. The 3 magic people finish their ritual, summon their thing, and blip out. They teleport out. So then they have to fight the Pepper Genie. And Adam is extremely dismayed at the existence of a Pepper Genie, but then he loves the art and comes around and is like, oh, the Pepper Genie is really cool. I like the Pepper Genie after all. So I managed to bring it all the way back.
That's great.
Yeah. They fight the Pepper Genie, and they completely, right off the bat, just completely neuter the Pepper Genie. They put a big persistent negative on the Pepper Genie, and it shuts him down, and then like every time the Pepper Genie tries to do a thing, they're just like, no, stop the Pepper Genie from being a thing. But halfway through this fight is when the Impossum shows up. And the Pepper Genie is a much bigger, much stronger lieutenant. And the Impossum is like a little D8 lieutenant. And the Pepper Genie is no trouble and never gives them any trouble, and they like deal some fire damage or whatever, but then they destroy it. But the Impossum, they cannot destroy, and they can't hit it, and they can't stop it. It's doing terrible things. And so finally they manage to defeat both, and the tower is crumbling around them. Like, okay, so do you, like, there's all these sigils, because the sigils were the thing that was holding the tower together. And Stellanova was like, I want to disable all the sigils. I'm like, all the sigils? Like, yes, all the sigils. I'm like, all the sigils? Yes, all the sigils. Okay, so you disable all the sigils, the tower begins to crumble. And they're like, okay, let's just grab stuff and teleport out. Let's not bother trying to save the tower. I'm like, okay, sure, that's fine. Yeah. And they feel drawn. Violet Heart gets killed. She gets incapacitated. She's not killed, but she's incapacitated.
Yeah.
She gets dropped to 0 by the impossum. Yeah. But that's okay. She still thinks it's great. She loves it.
Yeah.
So
She can have a pet impossum going forward.
no, it's gone. They destroyed it for the second time, and then it's in the tower as the tower completely collapses. Right. But they get the amulet. And they're like, oh, there's a box, and this box is calling to them. They go to they open the box, and inside they see the amulet, and like the voice inside Adam's head is like, oh yeah, this is power. You should grab that and like use it. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that thing. And they all feel that it's really powerful and also like really corrupted. And so Stella Nova is like, okay, I'm going to teleport everybody out, and I'm going to teleport this box. I'm not going to reach in and touch this amulet, but I'm going to teleport this box. So she does so. Major twist. She succeeds at the teleport. Everybody gets out safely, and she brings all the stuff that she wanted to with her, not the box. So she leaves with the box in hand, appears, no box in hand, but she still teleported the amulet because she wanted it. So she lands, and there's nothing in her hands, but there's an amulet floating where the box was, and it falls into her hands. And she's like, oh, shoot. I'm holding the amulet, the thing I definitely didn't want to touch. I'm holding it now. Yeah. It's like major twist. And and that's about, like, they're like, oh, we needed, so Rebel of a tower behind them. Yeah. And Adam and so Starblight and Stella Nova are really concerned about this amulet because the voice in Adam's head is saying, that's great power, you definitely want that, you should use that, and he knows better than that. And Stella Nova's like, wow, now that I've touched this, I realize there's something out in space that is like now aware of me, and it's like looking at me, and I can't see it, but because I'm holding this amulet, it's looking at me, and she's like super aware of that oppression. Violet Heart's getting back up on her feet, and Dynamo's like out of his element, but they're all like trying to figure out what they're gonna do. Okay, great. Oh, Dynamo had a really cool moment of when Violet Heart got knocked out. He grabbed her, threw her over his shoulder, jumped out the side of the building, and put his hand on the side of the building and scratched his way down the side of the building to land. He's like, I gotta get out of here before things get worse.
That's cool.
So yeah, that was a cool moment, and that's why it was just Stella Nova and Starblight like getting the amulet and teleporting out. So that's what happened, and so they did not. Spoilers of trying to cleanse the amulet. They need to cleanse the amulet. I don't think they even know that they can yet. Yeah. They're still like investigating it, but like all that ran so long, especially with all of the impossum stuff and the Arcanisbestos. That definitely came up and it was a pain. So all that stuff happened, and so as a result, then we ended the session because like, okay, we're here. You have this amulet. You're holding it. You know that's not great. What are you gonna do? Yeah, and that's where we ended. Yeah.
So this next session that we're coming into, they're just explaining the schedule to people in the chat.
Yeah.
So this next one that they're coming up to, they're going to try to cleanse the amulet.
That's right. So what I'm going to do here. Yeah. So what we're talking about today is how things went so far, how we feel about these characters now that we know them a bit better, and then what we're thinking for the next 4 sessions. Because I printed out the notes that I typed up on our very first GM prep session that I think has been devoured and lost to history or something like that.
The
very first one. I typed up all the notes from that, and I have all those notes from that from when we first did it. This is me doing it live. Yeah. And so I figured, let's go back over this, let's consider these things, and then see what direction we want to go, because I have some thoughts now that we know these characters. So first off, we have these characters. Dynamo, there was a character that was named Immortal Ambrosia, who is actually now Violet Heart. Starblight's around, Stella Nova's around. Okay, great. So, issue 1, they go. Our plan with issue 1 is they show up. They go to Earth. There's a giant egg. Laser dragon emerges. Can't fight the laser dragon. Got to drive it off. Multi-part challenges. Yeah, great. That was exactly what happened. Yeah. Then part 2, what brought this laser dragon to Earth? The Vandals did a cosmic ritual. The heroes hunt them down. They find the Vandals' lair. They fight inside, including Pepper Genie. They win, and they grill the Vandals for info. The Vandals give them information on the laser dragon, and there's a corrupted amulet.
So they didn't find out that information on the laser dragon.
They didn't find out the information on the laser dragon, but they know Stella Nova and Violet Heart and Starblight, for their own individual reasons, know in their hearts of hearts that this amulet is connected to the laser dragon. Right. That it's the same corrupted evil energy that has corrupted this amulet is the same sort of stuff that was controlling the laser dragon, because they felt this like evil, malevolent presence from the laser dragon, and they're feeling the same thing. So without the Vandals split, so they don't have the Vandals, but instead of having that like, oh, information here, they instead have the amulet and a deeper cosmic awareness of it, because they've been rolling really poorly, which is just giving me lots of opportunities to be like, here's how the story's going, and you're finding out the worst way. So we're in good shape here, corrupted amulet. So issue 3. Cleanse the corrupted amulet is what they'll start with, which is what I thought they would do. I actually thought starting session 2, I was ready. I had all the information ready for the cleansing the amulet process and for the result of that. Yeah. But
But they did not get to
It didn't
that.
happen. And I had originally planned, according to this document, that would happen at the start of the next session.
Okay.
And sure enough, it will.
Yeah.
So here's what we have currently for next session. That they're going to cleanse the amulet. They're going to learn the amulet is the badge of the Order of the something something Space Knights, which is the yes, it's the Order of the Knights Cosmic.
Good.
Badge of the Order of the Knights Cosmic. So then they'll learn Right. There's a section here that I had written about learn the location of the Order's castle, and then the badge would take them there. I definitely want this, rather than it to be like the thing they have to learn. They're like, oh, they're talking to the amulet, and the amulet's like, yes, you found an Order of the Knights a badge of the Order of the Knights Cosmic. If found, please return to this castle. And they're like, oh, we'd love to, but we can't. It's like, oh, I can take you there. Teleports them there. Boom, they're in this castle. Oh, heck. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So now you have to deal with that. You're out in space. Great, fine. And the castle is going to be overrun by space monsters, and then they'll find these spaceships. But then the castle's like, with the okay, great, fine.
Ooh, those space monsters are minions of a sorceress?
Yeah, of the final boss.
Oh, yeah.
The final boss. They're not going to find out of her yet, but
so good.
she's the one that is. She's doing the laser dragon thing. She corrupted the amulet. She's making these space monsters that we're seeing here. So like everything that we're doing is leading to her at the end. So we know that that's coming up, but they don't.
The celestial chargers.
And the thing that when Stella Nova held the amulet and felt like something out in space was looking at her, it's that sorceress. So now the sorceress knows about the four of them.
Right.
They don't know about her. But anyway, so a thing I want to do here with this issue, with issue 3, is I want to do, like, they've got all these space monsters, and they need to defeat the space monsters and then somehow cleanse the castle, so that then they get the sweet stuff out of the castle and start like rebuilding this Cosmic Knights Order.
Right.
I think that I'm really happy with Starblight's engagement with the story. Great, fine. I'm very happy with Stella Nova's engagement with the story, and especially going forward, stuff that she doesn't even know about. That's great.
Right.
Violet Heart's a little bit out there, but she is super into magic stuff, and this is all space magic, so this is like, she's into it, and she's learning about things as she goes.
Right.
Dynamo, I'm not, like, the engagement's not there.
Yeah. So you need to give things that Dynamo cares about.
But I've got it.
Good, okay.
Because they're gonna use like magic and their cosmic knowledge and all that to cleanse the space amulet. Right. Great, and they're gonna cleanse the amulet. Okay, fine, now it works. It's gonna take them there, and the amulet's gonna go, oh shoot, heck, everything is terrible and wrong. This castle's not correct. I have to go into like safe mode until the castle's restored, because I don't have the mainframe here to interact with. And the thing that I want to do, because the thing that Dynamo cares about is like science and learning, blah, 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 and time travel.
Right.
The castle is corrupted and it's ruined, and I want to have him find, like, he'll have like detection and stuff, and he'll find pockets of chronal energy that he can essentially go and do a series of side quests.
Right, to like dial the castle back to the previous state.
But rather, he'll go back. He's going to like do some butterfly effect things, where he's going to like walk into a room and be like, "Oh, there's like a little Cosmaka here." Walk into that, and he'll be able to manipulate it, and he can bring the team through. And then they're like, "Oh, here we are at a key stage in history when this there's various things that happened throughout history that corrupted this castle, and that if he can go back in time and like fix that in the past, okay, and then we come back, and then we fix that in the past, and we come back, and we fix that in the past, and now that is what gives them the ability to restore the castle. Is that the guy who cares about time travel can detect these these chronal pockets and use them to fix that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like doing that, like when Taylor.
Right, making sure that everybody has a thing.
It's kind of like a spotlight.
Right. So I want to have, let's see, castle overrun. We're going to solve it by pockets of chronal energy. Solve castle past. Great. Cool. Excellent. So then...
so that's the issue that we'll work on today mostly.
Well, we're not going to work on anything today.
Oh,
today,
we'll work on that.
I want to do the overview.
Yeah.
Next session, next
right,
GM
we've got
session.
another GM session before anyone plays.
So, so next time we'll work on issue 3. I want to talk about everything right now.
Right, that's
just kind of do this bigger overview thing, and then take any questions that people have and all that stuff. So yeah, so we're going to do the pockets of chronal energy. They're going to go in the past, and they're going to do those sections, and then they'll come back. So good. So that means what I want to do then is I want to move. So when they come back and they've solved the castle, I want the castle to like turn on and be beautiful and brilliant and shiny and sparkling and good. And then with that, it's like, hey, people that are here in the castle of the Knights Cosmic, you guys are aware of bad stuff that's happening in space nearish by, like in nearby galaxies, because this is what the castle's for. Is it's like a detection, it's an early warning system, and it sends you out on these missions, bad things. And hey, big deal, important thing that's happening. A laser dragon has emerged, and we haven't seen a laser dragon in a long time. You guys don't know anything about this, right? And they can be like, yeah, we surely didn't know that. And so what I want to do is like have this end with the castle being like, you've got to go deal. You have to go deal with that laser dragon, because otherwise it's going to destroy lots of things.
You want them to find the castle loot and stuff
at the beginning of the next issue.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right. I want them to. The castle is going to like wake up and give them a job.
Right.
And the job is, you need to go defeat this laser dragon. And they're like, oh, like I want them to be like, well, we can't do that. We fought the laser dragon before, and it definitely just destroyed us. And the castle's like, yeah, just go get this. And so that'll be the end of that session.
Sure.
The beginning of the next session, the castle's like, okay, you got to go fight the laser dragon. So go get your cosmic chargers and go down into the stuff and get all your equipment and go. And then they can be like, I'm sorry, what? It's like, oh yeah, there's all this stuff. Of course you're here to go do things.
I could see an argument for giving them this stuff and then ending the session so that they have time to think about it and be like, oh, that's cool, because then it sort of like is a teaser for.
Yeah, my concern is that the next session here is mostly this fight with the laser dragon.
Yeah.
So I'd rather open it up with giving them stuff, because the stuff isn't going to change how they work. It's just going to all of the individual chargers amplify they're enhancers to the way they work.
Sure.
And they allow them to operate autonomously out in space.
So you want to have them have the experience at the beginning of issue 4 of like going through the stuff, figuring out how it works, blah, 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 and then taking it and going to fight.
Right, because I'm afraid that if I give it to them at the end of this session, then the beginning of the next session will still just be a recap of, okay, let's once again explain the thing that we spent the last 20 minutes of issue 3 and the first 20 minutes of issue 4 will be the same. Unless I say, and I mean, it can even be issue 3 ends with, you have to defeat the laser dragon, so you'll use these, and I show it to them.
Yeah.
And then we end the session. It's like, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
But now you know you have these things.
And then here's the stuff. Go figure them out.
Right.
Kind of
so then the laser dragon destroys a moon, and it creates this big environment that is the
destroyed moon.
The resulting
with the rocks all around, like an asteroid belt or whatever.
Yeah. And so they have to fight it. They have to use the lance that they get from the lance of the order from the lake with the ship that's holding lands up. Great, cool. And then at the end of this session is when the Starblight sword will draw Starblight himself into the sword. Oh yeah. Right, and then they go into the sword after Starblight, and they're going to meet one of the Knights of the Order Cosmic, one of the Knights of the Order of the Knights Cosmic is trapped inside the sword. He was the last one to wield it, and they're going to go in there and they're going to fight him or manage to save him. But one way or another, they need to, because it'll draw Adam in. I assume the other 3 will then follow Adam into the sword. They could choose to be like, well, I guess Adam's gone. We'll pick up the sword and just use it. That's fine. I will just wing it then. It'll be fine. But
and then Adam gets to make a new character.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there will be future ramifications for that. Then this story here, this issue 5 is going to happen at some point.
Right.
Some point or another, they're going to have to go into the sword and save the various people that are trapped in there.
Right.
Adam may or may not be a part of that. This may or may not be what's happening in 3 weeks. Yeah. We'll find out.
That's good.
And then the final issue, after they get out, they'll now know about the space sorceress, and they know of her. She knows a lot about them because they've been dabbling in her realm for a long time, and they will have to find her and resolve that whole thing, and that'll be the Gen Con one.
That'll be cool.
We've seen the giant laser dragon egg. We've seen the location of magical stuff. The Vandals, the Pepper Genie, the Lair of the Vandals, corrupted animals, cleansed animals. I have not yet gotten the art for the Space Knight's castle. With the portraits in it, or the minions, or the chargers, or the lance, or the blightscape. Right. So, but that is the. So I'm actually really pleased with how everything is going, and I think that giving Craig, like, next session will essentially be a big dynamo session.
Yeah.
Because they'll get in there and
it's really cool. I like that a lot. What are you thinking for the multi-part fight for the laser dragon?
Because the laser dragon is going to be, once again, it's already built into the laser dragon's character sheet. It's the thing that I built when the prep session before the first one was that the laser dragon is invincible, and they're going to face the laser dragon, and it's still going to be invincible. Like, they've got these chargers, and they'll punch it really hard. Doesn't matter. It's immune to damage. But they will be able to use the lance that they get from the thing and drive that lance into the shield to nullify the shield. And so they're first going to have to deal with the laser dragon's shield. First, they're going to have to deal with their approach of getting there without being just destroyed by this, like, pelting moon situation.
Right.
Then they're going to have to deal with the laser dragon's shield, and then they will actually fight the laser dragon.
Right.
So that's going to be
that'll be cool.
That's going to be the 3 stages of that fight.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah. Cool. And the laser dragon is still big enough to eat one of them whole, one of those chargers whole, no problem.
Right. So wind up inside it.
But now that it's not invincible, like, they might be like, yeah, okay, if we get swallowed whole, then we can fight out from the inside or something.
You want to make an environment that's the interior of the laser dragon?
If I were going to send multiple people in there to go like on a mission, sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's just going to be like, no, your temper. It's not a full environment. Right. If I were sending, if they didn't have the chargers, like there's a story you could do with the laser dragon where you're like, we're sending like this ragtag team of people inside the laser dragon to defeat it from the inside out, and they don't have any special equipment, they just have themselves. And that's a whole laser dragon, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. But that's not for this one. Right. This one is big space battles.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The difference between superheroes in space and like space opera sort of settings is your like science fantasy space opera setting is you're kind of all like pulp heroes, and then you jump in your spaceships and use your spaceships to shoot things in space. Superheroes in space, superheroes can punch spaceships on their own. Yeah. And what we're doing with this team, this is a little bit like half in between the two, where we're giving them stuff, but it's just to allow them to be better in space, and they're still going to be themselves in space.
They can do stuff, and you've got the cool lance.
Right, yeah.
Cool. Cool. Anything else in particular that you want to go over?
No, I just wanted to kind of go over all this stuff, to kind of have a recap of how the first chunks went, and then how the remaining chunks have gone, and then what is or what will go, and making sure there's plenty of stuff for everybody. And I'm not worried about Starblight and Stella Nova, because Starblight has the sword situation, and Stella Nova has the like connection to the sorcerer situation. But the chronal energy and the magic stuff are the two characters that I'm like not worried about paying attention to, and like they have stuff. Sure. But the having an entire session next time that is going to be very based on that is going to be great for Craig, I think. Yeah. And he will learn things from that and gain knowledge from that. And then the penultimate session, so that after that we'll have just a big fight where everybody's fighting at their best with their chargers. And then after that we go into the sword, and that's where Maggie's character and Ray's character are going to be essential.
Right, that's cool.
A thing that I want to talk about, not necessarily today, but like certainly before that session, before the penultimate session, is making sure that Adam's character, that Adam doesn't have nothing to do.
Right.
Because in that session, he's been absorbed, he's been trapped, and they have to go find him. Right. So I want to give him some sort of role or task or something so that he's still contributing. Because I don't have a problem taking Starblight away from Adam for a session, but I want to make sure that Adam has something to do at the table. Yeah. Right. And because it's such a spotlight moment for his character, I don't feel like he's going to be offended by this. And also, I warned him at the beginning, like, well, if you give me carte blanche with your backstory, if you're like, well, I don't really know where the sword comes from, I will come up with someplace. I told all four of them, like, if anything you give me I don't know about, I'm just going to come up with something, and I might use it for or against you. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, great. So he knows what he signed himself up for. So
good. Well, before we go,
do we have some various questions? Yeah. If you guys have any questions about anything we've gone over?
Yeah, this whole adventure arc.
Yeah, any of the stuff that we've done so far in the past.
GMing in general,
right?
That kind of stuff.
Creating the
like
games stuff, I guess. Like we got some time.
Yeah.
Like what time is it?
Oh, real quick.
Yeah, we have like a half an hour-ish. Yeah. So like, let us know what stuff you want to talk about. And if not, we'll just get back to work. We got jobs. We got stuff we can do. Yeah, there's not any playing today. It's just this prep session. We're not playing today because Maggie's out of town, and today is our bit of a break. We're starting next week. Next week, we're doing another one of these GM prep sessions, but rather than a overview and talking about all the things, it is let's specifically prep for the issue 3 stuff. So the cleansing the corrupted amulet, talking to the badge of the order, teleporting to the castle, finding the pockets of chronal energy, dealing with all of those scenes from the past of the castle, and then coming to modern day. Yeah, and then what I can do is it'll be overrun with these monsters, and they can like fight the monsters, and if they defeat a bunch of monsters, it doesn't matter. Like gross purple portals open up and more monsters come through, and they're like, okay, this isn't going to do anything. We can fight infinitely. It's not going to actually do much for us.
But they figure out.
And then like if that means that by the end of the session, we've like used up all our time dealing with past stuff. If it's like, okay, it's 4 o'clock, we've run this has been a long session, we're good to go. Great. They come to the modern day, and the castle is pristine and beautiful, and there's no more monsters. But if we end and there's still plenty of time, if they like rocket through stuff and don't roll tons of major twists like they did last time, then it'll be like, great, you come to modern day and the castle's pristine and stuff, but all the monsters are here. There's no more portals, there's no more coming in, but there are still these monsters, and so now we can have like a wipe up the monsters time.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. And then we'll have, I think, there's a question in here.
Yeah.
Real quick, was there any chance they could have fought the Vandals last session?
Yeah, if that had been a thing that was important to them, if they were like, oh, we need to stop them, we need to fight them, we want to grill them, like if they
had no information from them.
Right, if they had personally been like, we got to beat these guys up, but they were very much like, oh, these things are happening. The last session was the heroes were a little bit on their reaction side and not on the proactive side, which was fine. But it just meant that I was like, hey guys, here's the situation. What do you want to do? And they're like, I mean, I guess like we were standing outside the tower for like 20 minutes, going like, what do we want to do? Do we want to walk into the tower? Do we want to fly up the side of the tower? Do we want to go to the top of the tower? What do you want to do at the tower? How do we go into the tower? And so I was finally like, okay, you see that the entire ground floor of the tower is destroyed and open, and there's like no wall. It was all clearly like doors and wall and windows, and it's all blown out. You can just walk in there. There's nothing to stop you. And they're like, oh, there's a magical barrier, and you can just walk through. And so like, I kind of had to like reel them in a little bit, which is fine.
Yeah, which sometimes you have to do.
Right, and I wasn't concerned about it, but I was just like, okay. So when I gave them the Vandals, I was like, the Vandals are here, and they've got this like magical barrier around them, but they're doing this stuff. Do you want to try to interact with the spell they're casting? Do you want to try to stop their ritual? And they're like, no, we just want to like let the Vandals talk at us some, and then finish their ritual. I'm like, okay, they do that. Sure. But so like I want to see.
If they'd gone a different direction,
if they were like, we're gonna grab these Vandals and apprehend them, and like at one point the Vandals, I'm like, oh, they started when they were teleporting out, when I had them teleport out, I had them like, they started doing this complex spell, and then they started slowly sinking into the floor. And I said, and Stella Nova, you don't even have to roll anything. You know, because of the sort of magic that you do and the sort of person you are, you know that they are teleporting out. And what they're doing is they're sinking through the floor here and like falling through a ceiling in someplace else. They're like, they're doing this slow magical teleport to some other place they have already set up in advance. And they're like, okay, cool. And like, they're slowly sinking to the floor. And they're leaving very slowly. Do you guys want to do it? And they're gone. Okay, great. Moving on.
Exactly. And sometimes that's
if you guys are not interested in tangling with the Vandals, that's fine.
No big deal, right? Yeah.
But like if somebody like wanted to run up and tackle them and pull them out of the hole in the ground, great, you can do that. Yeah. Or if somebody wanted to run up and like dive through the hole after them, like great, now we're in a different place. Like
I want to end the spell immediately so they get sliced in half.
Yeah, that's fun. You could do that, but no, they just wanted to watch. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
So there's another question. What kind of system is in place to help create the stats of enemies?
Oh, so I have a thing that I call Chapter 5, that it will be the 5th chapter of the core rulebook when that comes out next year, which has like the step-by-step walkthroughs of how to build full villains, like the Vandals were, like the Laser Dragon was, and will be again in the future, like the Sorceress will be. So full villains are buildable through that section. There's how to build minions and how to build lieutenants and how to build environments and challenges. And that's what I've been doing in these GM prep sessions before each of these. Is I've been like sitting down using that, and I haven't been building, like inventing anything that isn't on the page. I've just been using those systems to build the thing that I need, because that's like part of the process here is I'm stress testing Chapter 5 to be like, does this work? Or do I need to, halfway through this process, be like, oh, hold on, nope, I need to add a whole section so I can use it.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to yet.
Yeah.
It has not happened yet.
It's been great, yeah.
It's been just like, oh, there's a thing I need, great, I'll just take it and I'll do it.
Yep.
So there is a whole system, a whole chapter in place for that.
Yeah, because Chapter 5 and all that stuff is built already, and we were originally planning on having a Kickstarter this month for it, because the core rulebook system is almost done and it's looking really good. We delayed that, but that still means that development is going to keep going on
and it's
about
not delaying
that.
The book really. Like the book, one way or another, was going to come out probably early next year. Yeah. Now we're pushing the Kickstarter back, but that just means that we're going to have a much shorter turnaround time between the end of the Kickstarter and the delivery of the book. But that's the plan. That's the plan.
There's another follow-up question about that how do you set the opponent stats to make the fight the right level?
Sure. So there are various balancing things that are used in there. The system is pretty much balanced internally, but there are certain things that, like, okay, if I have a set, like we had a set of 4 heroes, and so I had, the fight could have been very strong, very easily 3 villains and the Pepper Genie. And as I was like, that's like 4 notable challenges for the 4 characters. And the 3 villains none of them were upgraded in the way you add villain upgrades to a villain if they're going to be a solo villain facing a group of enemies, just facing a group of heroes. But if it's a single villain, if it's a group of villains, then you're like, oh, we've got, we have 4 heroes, so let's do 2 villains and then like a set of minions and like a big lieutenant sort of thing. Okay, so that's like 4 chunks, 4 pieces to face the 4 adversaries. And so that was the idea behind that fight. Whereas like the Laser Dragon has the defense shield, and the number of successes you need on that can scale based on your number of opponents. And like I just built the stats for some villains for the preview adventure, and they all have scaling health based on how many heroes are in the scene. Right. Oh, are there 5 heroes in the scene? Then they get 25 extra health. Or is there 2 heroes in the scene? Then they get 10 extra health. So they're getting 5 extra health per hero in the scene. Yeah. So there's just like, there's not like one big knob of like, this is the knob for turning for balance. There's like lots of little knobs that all individually feed into that thing.
Yeah. A very rough overview though is like, as you said, like a non-upgraded villain or an upgraded lieutenant is roughly equivalent-ish usually to 1 hero. Yeah. When you're having a fight. So when you're creating that, like something that's going to be a fair, reasonable challenge, and you got like 4 heroes, then you have 4 of so like 2 upgraded lieutenants and 2 non-upgraded villains, or whatever will do it. But if you want to have there be fewer on the bad guy side, you can have an upgraded villain, which can take on a bunch of.
Like the laser dragon.
Exactly right. Or like 1 upgraded lieutenant, or like a couple of non-upgraded lieutenants, or a giant pile of minions. Right. All kind of equivalent.
Yeah. I mean, the starter kit does a good job of that. I was showing like, hey, in this scene, there's all these different threats, all these like this type of minion and that type of minion, this lieutenant and that lieutenant. But then the minions, the numbers of minions in the scene will be based on the numbers of heroes and stuff like that. So
yeah. Then there's a follow-up questions about Adam.
Okay.
Specifically, since Adam's playing in the game.
Yeah.
How much do you rely on Adam specifically to take the brunt of like damage and stuff like that, because you played with him for a long time and the other people are newer to it? They said that noticed that Adam's getting beat on a lot.
Well, so part of it, the reason Adam's getting beat on a lot is that he's charging in and punching.
Right.
And so like the situation that they fought so far, Dynamo was like standing back and defending Violet Heart, and Stelanova was standing way in the background and doing magic stuff, and Adam charged in and started stabbing at the thing. So it's like, great, the thing's gonna attack Adam. It's not gonna go after the guy who's like being super defensive. It's not gonna go after the 2 people that are standing in the background doing magics. It's gonna go after the person that's right there. So like Adam is kind of inviting that on himself.
And I feel like this is something that me and you and Adam, when we're playing, all 3 of us, when we're playing RPGs as a player, we tend to just be like, just get in there.
High risk, high reward.
Right, because none of us particularly mind if our character gets killed.
Yeah, it's fine.
And so, but some people, when they're playing a RPG, really care.
Right.
And so they'll be more cautious about their character.
Yep. But so Adam's charging right in, and that's why I'm certainly not specifically targeting Adam, although I could certainly make a case why I would, given our history. But in this case, it's not malicious.
Yeah, so then they're talking a little bit about last session, about if Stygian put up a barrier.
Yeah, so Stygian put up this magical barrier, and he's like, he creates this magical barrier between them. And all the heroes went, oh, okay, and stepped back. And none of them, especially the 2, I really expected Stelanova or Violent Heart to step forward and be like, I put my hand on the barrier, or I feel the barrier with my mind, and start trying to dismantle it. He like throws up this magical barrier to just try to defend themselves, and the heroes went, a magical barrier? We cannot cross it. I'm like, okay, great. So like, yeah. So yeah, they did put up magical barrier. They like the villains. The thing from their point of view they did is they put up a barrier to protect themselves and then start teleporting out. And I, as a GM, kind of push my heroes in various ways to buck the system, to be like, oh, I've been told I can't do this thing, so I'm gonna make it work. And instead, and for whatever reason, like that certainly happened in the first session when I was like, the laser dragon like is doing these things. What are you gonna do about it? And they're like, yeah, we're gonna stop it. We're gonna fight the laser. We're gonna take this on. And then in the last session, they were like, oh, these things have been told to us and they must be true, so we accept them. So I'm gonna see about that. The other thing that happened that was very strange last session, the first session, Ray was like on fire with her descriptions. She had all kinds of cool ideas. She's like, I'm gonna do this thing to deal with a thing. Great. This last session that we played, every time Ray wanted to fight a thing, she attempted to make an overcome check against it. And every time she wanted to overcome a thing, she attempted to attack it. Like every single time. She's like, okay, here we go. There's a sigil, so I'm gonna use my lunar beam and deal it damage. I'm like, nope, that's gonna be an overcome check, and let's talk about that. And like, and I explained the whole thing. It's like, okay, great. So then there's this pepper genie, it's attacking us, so I'm gonna use an overcome check to try to hurt it. And it's like, nope, that's just gonna be an attack. You're trying to attack it.
Yeah.
And that happened multiple times through the session. And so I'm not sure what happened, because in the first session, like she was like, oh, attacking the laser dragon or overcoming the sigils, got it. Right. And then it switched last session. I don't know why.
Yeah, it might be worth chatting with her, because since she's
the
newest
in the system, right? And I felt bad. I was
and
like,
RPGs in general,
right?
You know,
yeah. But it was just it surprised me because there wasn't that dissonance in the first session. Yeah. But I just need to, before the next session, sit down and chat with her about like, hey, like what happened here? What did I do to miscommunicate what's going on? Because I'm certain that I presented something in a way that she was like, this is how I should be doing it.
Right.
So
cool.
Yeah.
There's some questions about hero points, how they're used, and what you can do with them, what you should do with them, and like, did they use them between session 1 and session 2 or not?
They did. So after session 1, they had hero points. At the beginning of session 2, they spent their hero points on various bonuses. Now, some people, like Ray, checked off all her hero points. She was like, I'm going to take 3. They all had 3 hero points. And then she was like, I'm going to take 3+1 bonuses, and then never used them. And so they just went away at the end of the session. Craig made some bonuses. Craig had like a 2 and a 1, and he used at least a 2 but not the 1. Adam used his. Maggie, I think, used one of hers. So there's various, but yeah, you have to, you get hero point. You have your hero points. And at the beginning of a session, any hero points you gained last session, you can spend on bonuses that you'll have for that session. But then any that are unused by the end of the session, they just go away. You can't build up and build up and build them up forever.
Right.
So,
hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sanvar was asking for some clarification about that. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope that helped.
Yep. So they will use them every time. Did they get any hero points in session 2?
Yeah, they got at least 3 or 4. Well, I mean, I should be able to just look right here. Hold on. Cool. Let me.
But if you remind us in the chat, we can remember to kind of like at the beginning of next session make a point of being like.
We did this. We talked about it at the
Perfect.
beginning of last session. We specifically said, okay,
here's hero point time.
Here's how the hero point because we were actually I was just diving right in, and Adam's like, wait, we have these hero points. I'm like, yes, good. So let's pause and talk about those and how they work and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we will do that again at the beginning of next session.
Right. People are also complaining about how Adam doesn't think that Progeny's head escape is cool.
No, I don't think that.
Oh, you don't think
Adam thinks that Progeny's head escaping is cool. I think it's dumb.
Oh, okay.
They got 3. They again got 3 hero points this session. So they'll have another 3 to put around as they wish. So in the story of Progeny, when the heroes defeat Progeny, Progeny's head detaches from his body and blasts off into space.
Isn't that related to the RPG?
Right. And this is a thing that we talked on the letters page many, many, many times.
Yeah.
And Adam thinks it looks super cool.
Yeah.
And I think it looks super silly.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's not cool.
Right.
I think it's cool, but I think it's also really silly because the head just goes boop, and like a rocket comes out of the neck and goes, and it goes, and it flies up into space. And like, it's dorky. In a cool way, like it's totally fine, and I like it. And I love that it happens. Like it's a thing that like we wrote, and I'm into it. But it's kind of dorky. And Adam's like, no, it's totally awesome. So then he drew it for one of the things, and his drawing looks dorky. And he's like, no, it turns like to do a bullet shape and flies up. But that's not what he drew. He drew this head that has like these tendrils of liquid falling off of it, and it's like flying up into space. So this is just a point of contention between Adam and I. And like Adam feels that he really must convince me that it's cool. And I'm like, no, here's the deal. I'm fine with you thinking it's cool and me thinking it's dorky, and it can be both of those things. But Adam's like, no, it's not dorky at all, only cool. I'm like, okay.
That's excellent. Any other questions? I think we're kind of at the end of questions.
What tags? So there's a LinkFox question if you want to read that. They're the most recent one.
Oh, yeah. So the question is, what tactics do you use to help get timid new players involved and comfortable with role-playing?
So I try to give them lots of openings. I try to give them lots of like opportunities where they themselves can shine, which is like the thing we were talking about with Craig about like he doesn't have a thing for his powers to be useful here.
Right.
So try to give them opportunities for that. And to be fair, I have played many RPGs before with both Adam and Craig.
Right.
I haven't played RPGs with Jen and Ray and Maggie.
Yeah.
I did all of that wrong. And so with Ray and Maggie, there have been lots of opportunities for them to do magic stuff and cosmic stuff because I want to draw them out. I'm not worried about drawing Adam or Craig out of their shells. They will do that on their own. They have both invented situations where like there's situations that don't apply to either one of them, and both of them have like found a way to make it work for them.
Yeah. And what we were talking about with Craig for next session is just like the whole the thing he built his character around is chronal energy.
Yeah.
So we know, okay, it's good, and I always do this when I'm making sessions too, is like we want to give a spotlight thing.
Right.
If you build your character around something that you think is really cool.
You should I can't just be like, oh, well, that doesn't come up at all, this entire arc.
Right. Like if we're playing like a traditional like fantasy RPG,
like a dungeon delving sort of thing.
And someone is like, you know what, I'm a dragon hunter, and I have all these bonuses for fighting dragons and stuff like that. At some point, I'm going to have them fight dragons.
This is one of the reasons that in like 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, I stopped playing Rangers because I loved Rangers, but then like Rangers are based on like having favorite enemies, and there'd be so many times that I would build a Ranger with specific favorite enemies, and the GM would be like, great, you're never going to face those things, because like that takes away the bonuses against the GM. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then I just started GMing games myself. I'm like, now everything's better.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the reason I want to make sure there's chronal energy for Craig is not because I'm worried about pulling him out of his shell or making him be less timid, but because I want to give him something that is special for him. Because I feel like all three of them have had something that is useful and special about themselves to this point.
And in the first prep session that's been lost forever, we talked about this specifically when kind of crafting this outline, which is, all right, we've got a bunch of these magical and cosmic characters, let's make a magical and cosmic adventure.
This adventure is tailored for them.
Right, exactly.
And I wasn't, at that point, Craig's big direction for his character was I want to make sure that my character is good at like defending and protecting people. So I'm like, great, no matter what situation he's going to be happy. But then as we've been playing, he's been like, I want to look for chronal energy, I want to look for time travel stuff. Is anything weird going on with time here? And he keeps asking. So I'm like, the answer at some point to that question must be yes.
Correct, exactly, yeah. Oh, there's another question just about if there will be another series after this one, after this arc.
That's a good question. And the answer is so there will definitely be more Sentinel Comics Live things. We're definitely going to do more adventures. Are we going to do them with these same characters? Maybe. That really depends. By the end of this thing, there will be some changes because Adam's character will have definitely changed one way or another, and Ray's character has a big chance to change when she interacts with the Space Sorcerers because it's a person that's like her, so she has to really consider her own personhood at that point. I'd love to do another session that's a little bit more focused on the Violent Heart Dynamo side of things as opposed to the Starblight Stellanova things, but it'll depend on the players and the characters. If the characters are up for more and the players want to keep playing stuff, I would happily run another 6 sessions for those same characters about another story for them. I would probably put it like some months in the future, so there's been some time passed and some things have happened to them. But we'll burn that bridge as we cross it. And then I'm also interested, I know that there are some people in the office that are interested in playing that aren't these 4, that we could switch people out, have other people play, and maybe even have somebody else GM, which I don't mind GMing all the games. Right. And I'm not saying that somebody else GM so I can play. I wouldn't mind playing, but I don't mind not playing. I just know that we want to do more of these, and I'm curious to know what sort of actions we're going to have and how much demand is there, how much interest is there, how much interest in our office from other people. Right. Because I'm spearheading this and making it go, and you're doing a lot to help make this go too. Yeah. And this wouldn't be happening if we weren't driving on this. Right. But I also want to make sure that if we're going to do another thing, that other people are making it go.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I could see doing one where you GM it and I run the computer.
I think that'd be really
fun.
And
we still do these prep sessions. Right, that's easy.
I would love that actually.
Right, yeah.
Let's do that.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Well, let's do that sometime.
Yeah.
There's the thing is any of these permutations can happen at some point in the future. But I want to do at least one more of these this year, sometime this fall, maybe 2 more this fall, but at least one more between Gen Con and the end of the year, maybe 2 between Gen Con and the end of the year. And then I want to do one first thing next year, very early next year, right as the Kickstarter's going. Because I think that my thinking is that we do the first session of that the Tuesday before the Kickstarter launches, and then the second session of that the Tuesday of the Kickstarter would have 4 Tuesdays in it. So we would do the first session before the Kickstarter, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th on the Tuesdays, and then the 6th, and I think this was your idea, the Friday one, the 6th on the Friday of the Kickstarter. So we did the second session right as the Kickstarter started, and we did the last session on the day the Kickstarter's ending. Yeah. That's, yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I'll probably GM that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
In fact, that one might be a good candidate for the second arc of these characters.
It might, or that one might be a good candidate one for me running a session for people playing canonical characters.
That's true.
But I don't know.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The thing is, what I might want to do is have people make new characters. And do another character creation session beforehand so people can see character creation happening live, especially with more final character creation looking pieces that we can put up on the screen. Instead of doing, because the character creation session we did, which is again lost to history, is one where people just sit around and do the thing and it's not very good TV. Right. But we might do one where people are sitting around making their characters and I'm standing there and putting stuff up on screen about here's how this thing, here's how this works.
That's a good idea.
So I might want to do all new characters.
That's a good idea
for that.
This is how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
That's how the sausage is made.
I love sausage.
I do too.
It's really good. What else? What else was there?
Oh, yeah. So here we go. Will the Kickstarter have early access to draft document?
So there'll be certainly information on the Kickstarter about how the system works, but essentially rather than doing early access to draft document of the Kickstarter, we're putting out a bunch of the system information way in advance. We already last year put out the starter kit, which has a ton of like how the game works, and we're going to be putting out more stuff like that between now and the end of the year. So
I think the question might be, will Kickstarter backers get a PDF of the core rulebook as soon as it is done?
And that's true.
When it goes to print.
Right.
Yes.
We're gonna. So I mean, but a lot of people want the PDF before. Like right now on Kickstarter, I think that's ending today or tomorrow. Clark Valentine, who is one of the writers on the Sentinel Comics role-playing game, wrote a super cool little space fighting RPG, a space squadron RPG called Tachyon Squadron that is in Fate, and it's on Kickstarter right now. You should go look it up. It's super cool. But in that, they essentially put the plain text of the entire thing, no images, no layout, anything. Just like here's a big old PDF of all the text of the entire Tachyon Squadron book on the Kickstarter. So like anybody can just download that and use it. Great, fine. If you're interested in this Tachyon Squadron thing, download the whole thing for free, and then like get a Fate book, and you can play the thing without ever backing the Kickstarter. But the book with all the layout and all the color and all the images and all that stuff is what costs money. I don't think I want to do a thing like that with the RPG because with the whole core book, because there's so many. It's so big. It's a huge product, and we would necessarily need to do some like layout and design work to make that work, because right now it's all in like really fractured notes. But as soon as the Kickstarter ends, we're going to send you the PDF. So like you're going to have the PDF.
is done.
But like we're going to have the PDF to you ASAP before it goes to print. So
cool. Want to say more about organized play? That's the other one.
We want to start organized play next year, and
around the time we release the core rulebook.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
So whenever that happens, and then we'll just be like creating adventures for that. And the big dream that I have for organized play is that as we're doing it, people are playing in these games either at home or at their friendly local gaming store or at conventions, and then the GMs for those sessions have the option to collect some data from their players about how about events, not necessarily how the session went or if they enjoyed it, but the events that happened, like did this happen, Y/N, how did the heroes deal with this, so on and so forth, and submit that data to me through a series of Google Forms or whatever. We'll figure out some way to collect that data, and then that would help shape the adventures going forward, so that each adventure that comes out as part of organized play will be informed by adventures that came out before that. So
there's one other question about the preview adventure. So the plan is to have the preview adventure available
at Gen Con.
There'll
be a printed version at Gen Con, but at the same time, it'll be up as a free PDF on our website.
Right. The printed version will be professionally printed, though.
Yes. Yeah. Right. It's not like we're printing it at Kinko's or something.
Yeah.
Because Kinko's doesn't exist. They went out of business many years ago.
That's why
we're printed by FedEx. Otherwise, we print it there. Yeah. Other questions? I mean, I think we're good.
I think we're reaching the end of this. Yeah. Look at that.
All right.
Look at that.
Excellent. Thank you so much all for watching, both to learn more about how the GMing side of things is going and also to ask some general questions. Paul, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Good. All right.
We'll
We'll see you next time.
Farewell.